Sleep Ship Archive. Transmission initiated. Vessel status stable. All primary systems nominal. Cryosleep monitoring nominal. Archive integrity confirmed. Voyage year 214. Tonight's record comes from the archives of old Earth. The subject, pressure, what it appeared to be, and what it actually was, which were not the same thing. Pressure appeared to be force. Something applied, a hand pressing down, a weight bearing, the feeling of resistance when two things are pushed against each other. This description was not wrong, but it described only the most obvious version of something that was, in most of its forms, nothing like an event. In most of its forms, pressure was not applied. It was already present, already accumulated. Force that had spread across a surface and could not move further, holding there, pressing with equal insistence across every point of the surface, producing no motion, no drama, no change. Simply contact extended across area and maintained. The air in this space is pressing against the outer surface of the body right now, not arriving, not accumulating, already there. It has been pressing since before the body lay down, and it will be pressing when the body wakes. Every exposed surface of the skin, the face, the hands, the back of the neck, the forearms, is in contact with the atmosphere of this vessel, and the atmosphere is pressing in, not rushing, not gusting, pressing evenly from all directions with the accumulated weight of the air column above. This is not a record about force applied suddenly. It is about the other kind. The force that has already arrived, the pressure that requires no event to sustain it, the condition the body has been inside for an entire lifetime without noticing because the body matched it from within. Pressure is what force becomes when it cannot move. You may rest now. The archive will do the work of the night. Notice the contact between the body and the surface it rests on, not the surface as a whole, the specific area of contact. The back is not touching the surface at a single point, but across a distributed area. The width of the shoulders, the length of the spine, the breadth of the hips, the backs of the heels. Across this area, the weight of the body is being received. Not at one location, but across the full area of contact, variable in intensity. More weight where the body's mass concentrates, less where the geometry lifts it slightly away. Force distributed across area is pressure. The skin at every contact point is receiving the surface, its texture, its temperature, its slight give or rigidity, the particular quality of the material. All of this arrives as variation in the pressure at the skin, processed by the sensory systems as texture and contact and warmth. The body is not resting on the surface. It is in pressure contact with it. The contact extended across area, distributed, held continuously, neither side moving, both pressing. Pressure at a point is a spike. Pressure distributed across area is a condition. The surface is managing the distributed load of the body. The body is managing the distributed load of the surface. Each is a pressure vessel to the other. Area in contact with area, force distributed across the interface, the exchange continuous and mutual. Pressure accumulates. One molecule of air pressing against the skin produces a force too small to detect. The impulse of a single molecular collision is far below any threshold the body can register. But there is not one molecule pressing against the skin at any moment. There are vast numbers of them, moving continuously through the space, approaching every surface at enormous frequency, colliding and rebounding, each collision transferring a small impulse of force to the surface. Across the frequency of collisions and across the area of the surface, the accumulated result is a steady, significant, measurable force pushing inward. This accumulated force is atmospheric pressure, not built up over time and then held. The continuous result of an ongoing process, molecule after molecule, collision after collision, the force accumulating constantly because the collisions are constant. Remove the air and the pressure stops. Keep the air and the pressure is continuous. Nothing about this is special to the skin. Every surface the atmosphere touches is under the same accumulated force. The walls of this space, the floor, the ceiling, the outer surface of every object in the room, all of it being pressed, all of it pressing back. The pressure is everywhere the air is. Nothing exists without being pressed by something. The balance simply makes the pressing invisible. Air is not empty. The record on sound established this in the context of transmission. That air has mass, that it presses on the surfaces it touches, that it is a medium with physical properties. What that record approached, and this one settles into, the pressing is always happening in all directions, not only when something is moving through the air. The air is in continuous contact with every surface it touches and continuously pressing on those surfaces with the accumulated weight of the columns above. Above the body there is a column of air. The column extends from the surface of the skin upward through the space of the vessel. On old Earth, that column extended from wherever the body stood upward through the full depth of the atmosphere. Kilometers of air, each layer bearing the weight of the layers above it and transferring that weight downward, the pressure building toward the bottom of the column, the way pressure builds toward the bottom of any stack of weight. At sea level on old Earth, the weight of the air column above produced roughly 10 tons of pressure per square meter of surface area. 10 tons per square meter, pressing on every horizontal surface at sea level, including the horizontal surfaces of the human body. Not felt as 10 tons, not felt at all in the usual sense, because the pressure pressed from all directions equally, downward from the column above, upward from the surface below, inward from the air on every side. And the body's interior matched the pressure from within. Everything at sea level was inside a balanced compression of that magnitude, and felt none of it, because balance makes pressure invisible. Inside this vessel, the column is shorter, bounded by the hull rather than extending to a natural atmosphere. But the environmental systems maintain the air at the density and temperature that produces the same pressure the body was calibrated for on old Earth. The column inside the vessel is artificial in its containment. The pressure at the body's position is the same as it always was. The body cannot tell the difference. The column is still there. The weight of the air is still pressing. The balance is still maintained. The body breathes. The balance holds. The pressure is maintained. Pressure is not felt when it is balanced. This is a requirement, not an accident. The external pressure. The atmosphere pressing inward on every surface of the skin must be matched by the internal pressure of the body's contained fluids and gases, or the discrepancy registers. The body manages this automatically. The sinuses equalize with the atmosphere through the passages connecting them. The lungs equalize with each breath. Inhalation brings the interior of the lungs to atmospheric pressure, and the cycle repeats. The incompressible fluids of the body transmit pressure through themselves, maintaining equilibrium throughout. When the balance is disrupted, the body notices with great precision. A rapid change in altitude produces the sensation of pressure imbalance in the ears before the passages have time to equalize. The pressure on the outer side of the eardrum changes faster than the pressure in the space behind it, and the difference produces a sensation of fullness or pressure, sometimes pain. A blockage in the equalization passages produces pain from the differential on either side. The body is sensitive to pressure imbalance because balance is the expected condition. Any deviation from balance registers immediately. The system is calibrated to notice the exception, not the rule. This sensitivity exists because the balance has always been maintained. The sensory apparatus that detects pressure imbalance did not develop because pressure imbalance was the norm. It developed because balance was the norm. And anything that disrupted the balance was significant information. The ear canal and the passages that equalize it, the sinuses and their connections to the atmosphere, the entire pressure equalization architecture of the body, all of it exists to maintain the balance that makes pressure invisible and to report when that balance fails. The body is not unaware of pressure. It is designed to be unaware of balanced pressure and immediately aware of unbalanced pressure. The system that maintains the balance is continuous and largely automatic. The passages that allow equalization between the sinuses and the atmosphere are open when healthy and clear. The breathing mechanism refreshes the air in the lungs tens of thousands of times per day. The fluids of the body transmit pressure changes through themselves efficiently, maintaining the interior at the correct pressure without requiring any conscious management. This automatic pressure management is one of the oldest systems in the body. Single-celled organisms respond to osmotic pressure, the pressure of fluids moving through membranes toward lower concentrations. The pressure management of cells, of membranes, of enclosed biological systems is ancient. The body's specific mechanisms for managing atmospheric pressure are a later development, a response to the particular conditions of living at the bottom of an air column. But the underlying biology, the maintenance of interior pressure against the exterior, the equalization across membranes, the response to pressure differentials, is as old as life itself. Balance makes pressure invisible. The invisibility is not passive. It is the result of continuous work. Water makes pressure obvious. In air, the column above the body is long, many kilometers of air from the body to the top of the atmosphere. But the air is light. The density of air at sea level is low enough that a 10-meter increase in altitude makes only a small difference in the height of the column and an even smaller difference in the pressure. The body moving through ordinary altitudes in ordinary activity does not experience the pressure change of that movement as pressure. It experiences it as the slight ear adjustment of an altitude change, and nothing more. Water is far denser than air. The weight of a column of water is far greater than the weight of a column of air of the same height. At 10 meters of depth in water, the pressure is roughly double the pressure at the surface. The weight of 10 meters of water adds approximately 1 full atmosphere of pressure to the atmospheric pressure already present at the surface. At 20 meters, roughly triple. At 30, 4 times. The increase is linear, each 10 meters of water adding approximately the same pressure. But the total pressure at depth grows significantly with depth. And at depths achievable by an unequipped body, the pressure is noticeably different from the surface pressure. The body responds to this in several ways. The increased pressure at depth compresses the air in the lungs, reducing their volume. As the volume of the compressed air in the lungs decreases, so does the body's buoyancy. The upward pressure of the water on the body depends on the density of the body, and a body with compressed lungs is denser than a body with fully inflated lungs, and therefore less buoyant. The equalization of the sinuses in the ears is more demanding at depth. The pressure differential is larger, requiring more active equalization to prevent the painful sensation of unmatched pressure on either side of the eardrum. The body becomes aware of being inside a medium. In air, the pressure is large and invisible. In water at depth, the pressure is larger and felt. Both are the same mechanism. Accumulated weight of the fluid column above pressing at the point below. The fluid pressing in from all sides with the cumulative force of everything above it. Water makes visible what air conceals. The body knows both. The sensation of submersion, the awareness of being surrounded by something that has weight and presses, is the pressure of a denser medium becoming perceptible. The pressure was always there. Water just made the case more clearly. Pressure without containment disappears. Release a gas into open space and it disperses. The molecules move outward from the source, spreading in all directions, thinning as they spread, the pressure dropping as the volume increases, and the molecular collisions per unit area decrease. There is no pressure in a volume without a boundary. Pressure is the result of gas confined within a space. The molecules unable to expand indefinitely, their collisions accumulating as pressure against the walls that contain them. A vessel is the precondition of pressure. The walls of a pressure vessel exist to hold the outward force of the contained gas. The gas presses on the interior surface of the wall, and the wall resists, its material strength providing the counterforce that keeps the gas from expanding. The wall deforms slightly under this load. The material is elastic, not rigid, and pressure loads it within the elastic range. But it returns when the pressure is removed, and it does not yield to the sustained load it was designed for. The vessel and the gas are in a continuous stable exchange, the gas pressing out, the wall pressing back, the pressure held. The geometry of a pressure vessel is a solution to a problem. A sphere distributes outward pressure evenly across its entire surface. No region is more loaded than any other, the geometry ensuring that the force from the interior spreads uniformly across the total area. This efficiency in pressure bearing is why biological pressure vessels, the heart, the chambers of the eye, the cells themselves, tend towards spherical or rounded geometries. The rounded form is the form that resists pressure most efficiently for the amount of material required. Containment is what gives pressure a place to exist. The pressure inside a vessel is real only because the vessel holds it. Remove the walls and the pressure is gone. The gas expands to fill whatever larger space it occupies. The molecular collisions spread across a larger area. The pressure drops toward whatever the surrounding environment allows. The vessel creates the pressure by containing the gas within the space that allows the pressure to accumulate. Every enclosed space with gas inside it is a pressure vessel. The chambers of this vessel, the hull enclosing the inhabited spaces, the cryogenic chambers enclosing the colonists, the sinuses and lungs of every body aboard, the cells of the body's tissues. Each is a space with gas or fluid inside it, contained by walls, the pressure of the contents held by the strength of the material. Each is a pressure system in continuous operation, the pressure inside held by the containment outside. Pressure is what happens when force is given a surface to press against and no room to move. The hull of this vessel contains a pressure difference. On the interior surface, the atmosphere of the vessel, maintained at the pressure the colonist's biology requires, the same pressure the body was calibrated to on old Earth. the air pressing outward on the interior surface of the hull from every point of contact. 1 atmosphere of outward force distributed across the entire interior surface area of the hull. On the exterior surface, the near void of interstellar space. Not a perfect vacuum. There is matter out there. Trace amounts, diffuse and cold, the thin presence of interstellar gas between stars. But the pressure it exerts is so small it approaches zero by any measure that relates to the body's experience of pressure. The exterior of the hull is receiving essentially no inward pressure from outside. The interior is receiving 1 atmosphere of outward pressure from inside. The net force on every point of the hull's surface is outward. This force is not small. The interior surface area of the hull, the area of all the walls and structures that enclose the inhabited spaces of this vessel, is large. Across that area, at 1 atmosphere of outward pressure, the total force the hull structure is resisting is significant. The hull was designed for this. The thickness of the material, the geometry of the structure, the specifications of every joint and seam, all of it calculated to hold this differential indefinitely, to distribute the outward force across the structural elements in a way that keeps each element within its load capacity, to hold the pressure in. The hull is not resting, it is working, not the dramatic working of something strained beyond capacity, the continuous, unremarkable working of a structure doing exactly what it was designed to do. The material of the hull is in tension, the atmospheric pressure inside pulling it outward, the tensile strength of the material resisting that pull. The load is within the design range. The material responds correctly. The geometry distributes the stress efficiently. The hull holds the pressure difference. This has been the condition for 214 years of voyage. The pressure inside has been maintained. The near void outside has not changed. The difference between them has not decreased. The force the hull is holding has not relented. Not for an hour, not for a day, not for a year, not across 2 centuries of travel between the stars. The hull has been doing this work for longer than any individual aboard this vessel has been alive. It was doing this work before the colonists were placed in cryosleep, and it has continued without pause since. The wall between atmosphere and void is thin. The difference at its surface is total. The hull holds. The force pressing outward will not diminish. The void does not equalize. Large bodies under gravity accumulate large pressure at their centers. The atmosphere of a planet is the weight of the gas column above any point at the planet's surface. The accumulated mass of all the gas in the atmosphere pressing downward under the planet's gravity. A thin atmosphere produces low surface pressure. A thick, dense atmosphere produces high surface pressure. The planet Venus has an atmosphere roughly 90 times as dense as Earth's at the surface, producing a surface pressure 90 times that of old Earth at sea level. That pressure would crush unprotected equipment rapidly. The Venusian surface is not a place the body could survive without a vessel designed to hold the pressure difference between the body's interior and the environment outside. The gas giants have no defined surface but have increasing pressure with depth, descending into the atmosphere of Jupiter or Saturn, if a descent were possible. The pressure would increase with depth as the atmosphere thickened and the weight of the column above grew. Deep enough, the gas would no longer behave as gas in the ordinary sense. The pressure would transform it, hydrogen compressing into a state that is no longer clearly gas, exhibiting electrical conductivity, behaving as a fluid rather than a gas. Pressure, at sufficient magnitude, changes the character of matter. The material that exists under ordinary pressure and and the material that exists under extreme pressure are different materials, even when the underlying substance is the same. The core of a star is the extreme of this, the weight of the entire mass of the star pressing inward from all directions, gravity compressing, the plasma at the core under a pressure that sustains the conditions for fusion. The temperature and density high enough for hydrogen nuclei to overcome their mutual repulsion and combine, the energy released by fusion pushing outward against the weight pressing in. The star holds its size because the outward pressure of fusion and the inward pressure of gravity are balanced. Gravity and pressure are paired in every large body. Gravity compresses, pressure resists. The arrangement that results the star, the planet, the compressed core of any sufficiently massive body is the equilibrium between them. Remove the gravity and the pressure explodes the arrangement outward. Remove the pressure and the gravity collapses it inward. The large-scale structures of the universe are negotiations between these two tendencies, held in balance for as long as the conditions allow. The condition is universal. Everywhere matter accumulates under gravity, pressure builds at the bottom of the accumulation. The depth of the accumulation determines the pressure at the bottom. The composition of the accumulating matter determines how it responds to that pressure. Every large body is, at its center, a pressure system. The star, the gas giant, the planet. All of them held in their current forms by the pressure that the accumulated mass produces at their centers. The inside of the body is under pressure, not from outside, from within. The cardiovascular system maintains the blood at a pressure significantly above atmospheric, the heart generating this pressure with each contraction, pushing the blood outward through the arteries with enough force to overcome the resistance of the vessel walls and reach the body's extremities. The arteries are under this pressure continuously. The muscular walls designed for the cycling load of the heartbeat, expanding slightly with each pulse and returning as the pressure between beats drops. This hydraulic pressure is not the atmospheric pressure of the air. It is a separate system, higher in pressure, maintained by a different mechanism, serving a different function. The body keeps blood under pressure because a hydraulic system under pressure can do work that a system at rest cannot. Blood at pressure reaches the capillaries at the body's extremities, delivering oxygen and nutrients against the resistance of the smallest vessels. Low pressure means inadequate delivery. The cardiovascular system adjusts the pressure moment to moment to match the delivery to the demand, increasing during exertion when the tissues require more, decreasing during rest. The pressure management is continuous and responsive. The pressure in the sinuses is atmospheric. The sinuses, the air-filled chambers in the skull, are connected to the atmosphere by passages that allow equalization. When the atmospheric pressure changes, the pressure in the sinuses changes with it through the equalization passages, maintaining the match. If the equalization passage is blocked by inflammation, by mucus, by swelling of the passage walls, the sinus cannot equalize, and the pressure differential between the sinus and the atmosphere produces the sensation of pressure, of fullness, of pain. The eye maintains its internal pressure separately. The fluid inside the eye, the aqueous humor that fills the anterior chamber, the vitreous humor that fills the larger posterior chamber, is under a pressure maintained by the continuous production of aqueous humor and its drainage. The pressure inside the eye is higher than atmospheric, high enough to keep the eye's structure inflated, its spherical form maintained, the optical geometry correct. If the drainage is impaired and the pressure builds, the increased internal pressure damages the structures of the eye. The eye's shape, and therefore its function, depends on correct pressure maintenance. The body is a collection of pressure systems, each operating at its own pressure, each contained by its own walls, each continuous. Feel the breath now, not as movement, as pressure. The chest expanding, the diaphragm contracting downward, the volume inside the lungs increasing. As the volume increases, the pressure inside the lungs drops slightly by a small fraction, below the atmospheric pressure outside. The air outside the body, at atmospheric pressure, moves into the lungs where the pressure is now lower. The air does not arrive because you drew it in. The air arrives because the external pressure, unchanged, is now higher than the internal pressure. And the pressure difference moves the air inward. The breath is not movement, it is a pressure exchange. Pressure is what force becomes when it cannot move. The breath is what happens when it is briefly allowed to. The interior pressure dropping, the balance tilting, the atmosphere moving in to restore it. Then the tilt returns the other way and the air is released. The force moved, the balance was restored, the cycle begins again. The atmosphere pushes in when the interior pressure drops. Then, the diaphragm releases, the chest returns toward its resting volume, the pressure inside the lungs rises above atmospheric, and the excess pressure moves the air out. The body created a low-pressure space, and the atmosphere filled it. The body reduced that space, and the pressure difference drove the air out. The lungs are not pumps that move air by active suction. They are bellows that change the interior pressure and let the atmospheric pressure do the moving. This has been happening without pause since the first breath. Each breath is a small, controlled pressure cycle. Interior pressure dropping slightly below atmospheric on the inhalation, rising slightly above on the exhalation. The air moving across the pressure gradient each time, the balance restored at the end of each cycle. The magnitude of the pressure change is small. The body does not feel it as pressure. It feels the expansion and contraction of the chest, the movement of air through the passages of the throat and nose, the cool of the air against the passage walls on the way in. The pressure mechanism beneath the sensation is not felt. Inside the lungs right now, the air is near atmospheric pressure. Inside the sinuses, the air is at atmospheric pressure. Inside the vessels of the cardiovascular system, the blood is above atmospheric pressure, cycling with the heartbeat. The body is a nested set of pressure systems, each at its own pressure, each balanced against what surrounds it, each continuing without instruction. The respiratory system and the cardiovascular system are both pressure systems, but they are different kinds. The cardiovascular system is a closed circuit, the blood under continuous hydraulic pressure circulating through the vessels, the heart generating the pressure that drives the flow. The pressure never drops to zero while the heart is working. There is always positive pressure in the arterial system, even between heartbeats. The respiratory system is an open cycle, the lungs communicating with the atmosphere, the pressure inside equalizing with the outside at the end of each breath, the cycle creating small pressure deviations from atmospheric and then returning. Open and closed, communicating and contained, both continuous. Pressure is present everywhere inside this body. Balance makes most of it invisible. The body contains itself under pressure. The skin is the outer wall of the body's pressure system, the elastic, complex material that maintains the body's interior at a pressure matching the exterior atmosphere. Not rigid. The skin flexes and folds with every movement, stretches and returns, accommodates the full range of the body's motion while maintaining the pressure seal that keeps the interior separated from the exterior. The skin is the containment vessel of the body's fluid interior. Beneath the skin, the tissues, muscle, organ, connective tissue. All of it under pressure, all of it surrounded by the fluid that transmits pressure through the body's interior, all of it maintained at the pressure that the surrounding fluid holds. Remove a section of skin, and the pressure differential between the interior fluid and the exterior atmosphere drives the fluid outward through the opening. The skin is what holds this in, not by being rigid, but by being present, by maintaining the boundary. The body does not hold itself together by rigidity. The body is not solid at its center. There is no layer you could move through going inward that is not fluid or gas held under pressure inside a container. The organs are pressurized chambers. The spaces between cells are fluid at pressure. The cavities of the trunk are pressurized spaces held inside the walls of the structures surrounding them. The body is soft structures, all the way through, in pressurized fluid, inside a flexible skin. What gives the body its form is not the hardness of what is inside. What gives the body its form is the match between the pressure inside and the pressure outside. The soft structures hold their shape because the atmosphere presses in and the interior presses back with equal force. Remove the match. Let the exterior pressure drop suddenly below the interior, or the interior pressure drop below the exterior, and the form begins to fail. Not through the fracture of a solid structure, through the loss of the pressure relationship that gives the soft parts their shape. The body is held in the shape of a body by the pressure it contains and the pressure that contains it. The skeleton provides structure and bearing surface. The muscles provide force and movement. But the containment, the maintenance of the body's interior as a distinct pressure environment, managed through equalization where appropriate and sealed where not, is a pressure system. The body is pressure organized. The body has always contained itself under pressure. The skin has always been the outer wall of a pressure system whose interior is matched to the atmosphere outside by the equalization mechanisms and the elasticity of the wall. Before birth, the pressure inside and the pressure in the amniotic fluid outside were matched. After the first breath, the pressure inside was matched to the atmosphere by the lungs. The matching has continued ever since. The body is inside the atmospheric pressure. The body contains the body's interior pressure. The wall between them, the skin, is thin. The difference across it is managed. The management has never stopped. The skin accomplishes this while remaining permeable where it needs to be. The skin is not sealed absolutely. It exchanges gases through pores, releases heat, allows sensation through pressure receptors embedded throughout its layers. It is a selective barrier. Permeable to some things, impermeable to others, the selectivity maintained by the structure of the skin itself. Through all of this exchange and permeability, the gross pressure relationship between inside and outside is maintained. The skin lets heat pass, lets the sweat glands open, lets sensation through, and holds the pressure differential managed. This is more sophisticated than rigid containment. Rigid containment would hold pressure, but allow nothing across the boundary. The skin holds the pressure boundary while permitting the exchanges the body requires to function. The heat exchange, the gas exchange through the pores, the constant sensory report from the pressure receptors about the outside world. Containment with selective permeability. Not a wall, but a managed interface. The hull is a simpler version of this. The hull holds the pressure absolutely. It is designed for containment, not selective exchange. Where exchange is needed, airlocks, supply ports, communication systems, specific mechanisms are added, each one a separately managed interface with its own sealing and equalization system. The hull is specialized for containment. The skin is specialized for managed interface. Both hold the pressure. Both have done so for the duration of this voyage. The hull of this vessel is doing the same thing the skin does, at a different scale and against a different outside. The body contains its interior at atmospheric pressure. The skin holding the boundary between the body's fluid interior and the atmosphere around it. The pressure approximately equalized across the skin's surface because the inside matches the outside. The hull contains the atmosphere at the same pressure. The metal holding the boundary between the vessel's atmosphere and the void outside. The pressure not equalized because the outside is near vacuum and does not push back. The body's skin holds against a matched pressure. The hull holds against an unmatched one. Pressure is what force becomes when it cannot move. Inside this hull, 1 atmosphere of outward force has been finding nowhere to go for 214 years. The hull is the reason it cannot move. The hull is where it stays. The force across the hull is the full atmospheric pressure of the vessel's interior, pressing outward with no corresponding inward pressure to balance it. 1 atmosphere of outward force across every point of the hull's interior surface. The material holds this not through equalization, but through tensile strength. The molecular bonds of the metal holding against the continuous pull of the pressure inside. The geometry of the structure distributing the load efficiently so that no region exceeds the capacity of the material. The skin holds against a balanced press and registers nothing. The hull is still holding against an unbalanced one. It has held for 214 years, not 1 hour of rest in that time. Not 1 moment when the pressure inside decreased or the void outside increased enough to reduce the difference. The atmosphere maintained at pressure, the void remaining void. The force across the hull unrelenting for the entire duration of the voyage. Across every watch, every year, every decade of transit, the material of the hull doing its continuous, unremarkable work. There is no version of this voyage in which the force is not there. The body's skin holds the interior against the atmosphere. The hull holds the atmosphere against the void. 2 vessels. The smaller one contains what the larger one carries, both still holding, both continuous. Return now to the surfaces. The surface the body rests against, the back in contact with the material below, the weight distributed across the area of contact. The skin at every contact point is receiving the surface's pressure, not a single force arriving at a single point, but a distributed pressure map. The contact area experiencing the load, each square centimeter of contact receiving its share. The air in contact with the skin where the body is not against the surface. The atmosphere pressing against the face, the hands, the neck, the forearms from all directions simultaneously. The air column above pressing down, the air on all sides pressing inward. The full atmospheric pressure accumulated across the entire exposed surface of the skin. The body's interior pressing back with equal pressure from within. The body is inside a press. It has always been inside a press, not a dangerous one, a balanced one. Interior matching exterior. The balance maintained by the mechanisms that have always maintained it. The sinuses equalized, the lungs cycling, the cardiovascular system maintaining its own internal pressure within its vessel walls. The skin holding the boundary. The breath moves through the pressure cycle, inward. The interior pressure drops, the atmosphere pushes in, the lungs fill. Outward, the interior pressure rises, the air moves out, the cycle completes. The body sits inside this cycle without noticing. The pressure changes are small, the mechanism is reliable, the breath continues. The weight of the body against the surface is the distributed pressure of the gravitational relationship, as the last record explored. The atmospheric pressure of the air against the skin is the accumulated weight of the air column. The internal pressure of the body's fluids and gases matches both from within. Every pressure is present. Every pressure is balanced. The body is held in the balance. The cryogenic systems maintain the colonists inside their chambers. The chambers themselves pressure vessels, containing the colonists at the correct atmospheric pressure. The environmental systems of the chambers managing the pressure of the contained atmosphere as carefully as the ship's systems manage the pressure of the larger inhabited spaces. The colonists are inside their chambers the way the chambers are inside the hull, each containing the next, each a pressure system nested inside a larger pressure system, each held by the material strength of its walls. The same condition extends from the scale of a cell to the scale of the hull, the cell wall holding its interior at osmotic equilibrium, the skin holding the body's interior at atmospheric equilibrium, the hull holding the vessel's atmosphere against the void. Each is a boundary, each is under pressure, each holds. The condition has not changed since before the body lay down. The archive record for pressure is now complete for this transmission. Pressure was not a special condition. It was not the dramatic force of sudden impact or the spike of a concentrated load. In most of its forms, pressure was the continuous, distributed, area-wide presence of force at every surface it reached. The atmosphere pressing on the skin, the fluid pressing on the vessel walls, the weight of the column above pressing on the surface at the base of the column. Pressure was everywhere and constant, and invisible in most of its forms because the body matched it from within. Pressure is what force becomes when it cannot move. The hull of this vessel maintained a pressure difference for the entire voyage. Inside, the atmosphere the biology requires, pressing outward on every interior surface. Outside, near vacuum, pressing on nothing. The hull held this difference for 214 years. The material in continuous tension, the force distributed across the structure, the geometry holding the load within the capacity of the material. The body maintained its own pressure systems for the entire voyage. The cardiovascular pressure that delivers blood to the extremities. The respiratory cycle that manages the pressure exchange with the atmosphere. The skin that contains the interior at atmospheric pressure. The sinuses that equalize. The eyes that maintain their internal pressure within the range that keeps the structure and the optics correct. All of these running, all of these continuing. Containment is what gives pressure its form. The pressure inside a vessel exists because the vessel holds it. The pressure inside the body exists because the body contains it. The atmospheric pressure of this vessel exists because the hull contains it. Each containment is a surface held against the force pressing on it, the material and geometry sufficient to hold, the condition maintained. The body is inside the condition. The condition continues. Sleep ship archive, transmission complete, vessel status stable, cryosleep monitoring nominal, all systems nominal, archive record sealed and filed, voyage continues, it has never stopped, the surface, the breath, the hull, you cannot feel any of it. Please continue restorative sleep.